Have you ever heard about the bell tower at Holloway College? They say no one goes in and no one comes out the same. Tonight, I want to tell you a horror story, a true confession, about a student who was never supposed to exist. This is the Bell Tower Children. If you love creepy urban legends and psychological horror, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.
Interrogation transcript speaker. Professor Elias North. Transcript begins interrogation room B 11:43 p.m. Subject: Professor Elias North. Recording officer: Detective K. Morales.
You can stop the tape if you're expecting me to tell you where the girl went. I can't. I won't insult either of us by pretending I know how to explain what happened in a way that fits into your reports. But I can tell you why it happened, and I can tell you what's going to happen next. If you don't start listening, I'm not mad. I know how this sounds. You think I killed Claire Henley, or that I led her to some deranged suicide. Maybe you think I snapped, and now I'm putting on this little folklore-flavored puppet show to buy time. And honestly, if I were sitting in your chair, I'd think the same thing. But that bell didn't ring because of me. It rang for me, and now it's ringing for someone else. It started 2 weeks ago. A student jumped from the top of the old bell tower, Marcus Rowe, sophomore, English Lit. I didn't know him well, but he was in my comparative myth class. Sharp kid. Depressive streak, from what I heard. The thing is, that bell hasn't rung in over 50 years. It's sealed, mechanically disabled after the last suicide back in 1973. The university wanted it to be a symbol, not a threat. But that morning, just as the body hit the courtyard stones, I heard it point one deep, low clang. I was in my office on the 4th floor of Rook Hall. The sound shook the window panes. My mug trembled across my desk and shattered on the floor. Books tipped off the shelves. My ears felt like they were filling with water, like pressure before a nosebleed. But no one else heard it. I asked around: students, staff, even old Keller, the night janitor. They all looked at me like I was crazy. Keller just muttered something about bad vibrations and walked away. But then Claire came to me. She said she heard it too. Claire was my research assistant. Bright, skeptical in all the right ways, but sensitive, attuned to things most of us learn to ignore. She told me she hadn't just heard the bell. She'd felt it. That night, it rang in her dreams. And when she woke, there was ash on her windowsill, though her dorm has no fireplace. And this is where it began to tilt into the strange. She swore she saw a child standing outside, barefoot, watching her from beneath the maple tree. It's mid-November. No child should be out barefoot in this town. That we both knew something was wrong. But I didn't want to label it. Not yet. Instead, we did what I always do when things feel off. We went to the archives. There's something you have to understand about this place, Ashbrook University. It likes to bury its own bones. The bell tower is old, older than the main campus buildings. But dig deeper, and you'll find that it wasn't always a tower. It used to be part of a small, 3-story orphanage built in 1871. Ashbrook Orphanage burned down in 1891 under mysterious circumstances. 7 children died in the attic. Only the bell tower remained, repurposed by the university when it absorbed the land. The fire was blamed on a gas lamp, but the real cause was vague. And the children's names? Never published, just erased. Claire and I started finding these echoes, little things tucked away in forgotten drawers and misfiled boxes. A half-burnt ledger listing 7 unnamed children, labeled only as Ashbrook Final Intake. A brittle photograph showing the tower, stark and new, with chalk drawings of bells lining the bricks. And a set of hand-drawn illustrations, children's drawings, by the look of them. all in charcoal. All of the tower, always the tower, and faceless children staring up at it with arms raised. One page just had a phrase, scribbled over and over. The bell rings red when it's full. Claire started changing around that time. She became obsessed, but not manic. That's too easy a word. She was drawn to it, magnetized. She started sketching, constantly, on napkins, notebooks, chalk on her dorm wall. Always the same image, the bell, and a circle of children with their backs turned. She told me she couldn't sleep, that the bell would ring at 3:11 a.m. on the dot every night. And each time, she'd wake up with her hands covered in soot. Her fingernails were always black and she'd begun sleepwalking. Once, she woke up just outside the tower's sealed entrance, barefoot, shivering. The front door, bolted shut since '73, had new scratches on the inside of the frame. We set up a camera. The footage didn't show her walking. It showed her appearing mid-frame, as if she'd been cut into the video. No footsteps, just there. Keller, the janitor, found us one night reviewing the footage in the library. He looked at Claire for a long time, then said, flatly, "The tower doesn't take. It waits. It waits until it's asked." When I asked what that meant, he only said, "There were supposed to be 8. I thought he was mad or drunk, maybe both, but I wrote it down, and now I understand. That was the last night I saw her. She went into the tower, and she didn't come out, not the way you'd recognize."
Detective Morales, Professor North, are you saying Claire Henley is inside the bell tower right now?
Professor North, no, not physically, but her memory is. Her impression.
Detective Morales, are you claiming you witnessed a student's disappearance and didn't report it for 6 days?
Professor North, leaning forward, would you have believed me if I had?
Detective Morales, go on.
I didn't go to the tower that first night. I should have. Maybe I could have found her then. Maybe something could have been reversed before the roots took hold. But I waited. I spent hours poring over blueprints, newspaper clippings, old maintenance logs, anything that might explain how the tower worked or how Claire could have gotten in. According to everything official, the door was sealed, bolted from the inside, welded at the hinges. No one had entered in decades, yet her drawings continued to appear. They weren't just in her room anymore. They started turning up around campus. One chalked on the sidewalk outside the humanities building. A child with a hollow face and arms raised toward a dark sky. One in the bathroom stall near my office, carved into the metal with a paperclip. When the bell rings red, it's full. A student dropped out that week. Another one had a panic attack mid-lecture when he thought he saw a child curled up in the vent above the blackboard. No one else could verify it, but I believed him. I had to believe him. So I went to the tower. It was a Thursday night, cold enough to numb the tips of your fingers, but not cold enough to explain the frost I found on the door. Just frost. Not on the wall, not on the ground, just on the iron door, as if it had been sealed for centuries. And there, scratched in tiny, uneven strokes, as if by fingernails, was Claire's name. Not once. Dozens of times. Dozens of Claire's, scratched in loops and scrawls across the lower edge, just above the concrete. I tried the handle. It didn't budge. Then I remembered what Keller said. It waits until it's asked. So I asked. I said her name aloud. I said, "Claire, I want to understand. I want to help." And the door opened. Inside, the air was wrong. It wasn't just cold. It was stale, like the inside of a long-sealed tomb. Dust floated in lazy spirals through the beam of my flashlight. The walls were stone and ancient brick, some bearing remnants of the original orphanage's construction. The steps spiraled upward, steep and narrow that I climbed them slowly, one hand trailing the wall. There were drawings on the inside, too. Charcoal smudges, scratched faces, warped bells that looked more like mouths. About halfway up, I found the first object, a child's wooden toy. A hand-carved spinning top, singed around the edges, and beside it, tucked into a crack in the wall, a single torn page from what looked like a journal. "We don't ring it now unless we need to. She says the bell only works when we're scared. That's how it hears us. That's how it comes. Sometimes I wake up and I'm outside. Sometimes the other kids say I talk in my sleep and it's not my voice. They say I speak in the cracks. The bell rings red when it's full. I think it's almost full now." I climbed faster after that. Every few steps, another object, a child's shoe, a melted crayon, a broken pair of glasses, each accompanied by fragments. Notes, scribbled messages, always the same themes: dreams, voices, a presence watching from behind the bell, something growing inside it. And then, as I reached the top, I heard it. Not a ring, a groan, a low, trembling resonance, like the metal was exhaling. I stepped into the bell chamber and saw them. Not children, not exactly. Shapes, outlines of children, formed from soot and shadow, standing in a circle beneath the great iron bell. Their heads bowed, their arms limp at their sides, and in the middle of them, Claire or something wearing her shape. She looked up. Her eyes were black from corner to corner, like polished coal, and she said, "We asked it to stop." I tried to reach for her, but the air between us was like glass, thick and impenetrable. My breath fogged, but hers did not. She looked at the others and whispered, "It's almost full." The bell shook, and then I was outside again.
Detective Morales, wait, so you're saying you were somehow transported out of the tower? Like, you blacked out?
Professor North, no. I walked down the stairs. I remember every step, but when I looked back after the door closed, there was no door.
Detective Morales, you mean it was gone?
Professor North, I mean there was nothing but solid stone where the entrance should have been. And my phone.
Detective Morales, what about your phone?
Professor North, I'd filmed everything. I had footage. I had recordings. Screen caps of the drawings. Pages from the journal. But when I checked, every single file was corrupted. Just static. And then the phone bricked itself. Never turned back on. After that, I didn't go back to the tower. I watched it instead, day and night. And more people started seeing things. Children in places they shouldn't be. Barefoot footprints in fresh snow. An RA found an old school book on her pillow that didn't belong to any current student. One of the deans swore she saw Claire walk into the lecture hall, sit in the third row, and vanish before the class began. We were all being invited. Warmed up. The bell was choosing again. And then came yesterday. I found another note on my desk in my handwriting, though I don't remember writing it. It said, 8 must stand. You make 8. I didn't understand. Not until I looked again at the photograph we found in the archives, the one from 1891, just before the fire. 7 children, and an empty space between them. Just enough for one more. Just enough for me. I should have told someone. The police, campus security, even a journalist. But I knew how it would sound. So I prepared alone. I wore a body cam under my coat. Took 2 backup batteries, an audio recorder, a flashlight, and This is going to sound foolish, a child's toy. A stuffed rabbit I'd found in the library stacks 2 nights ago. I don't know why I took it. I think some part of me knew it mattered. The bell tower was waiting, and this time there was a door. It opened when I approached. No asking, no key, no resistance. Inside, the spiral was longer than before. Much longer. I climbed for what felt like hours. The air thickened. The drawings became worse, now depicting scenes of hanging, open mouths, and black-eyed children kneeling in rows before the bell. The sound started faint, like the echo of breathing, not from above, but from within the walls. At the top, the chamber had changed. There was no bell anymore, just the shape of it, an absence in the air, the outline of something immense suspended above me, formed by distortions in the dust. If you squinted, it shimmered. If you looked too long, your eyes hurt. The children were there, 0.7 of them, and the eighth place was waiting. Claire stood across from it, arms by her sides, hair matted to her face. She looked thinner, more static, like she wasn't entirely attached to the moment that I tried to speak, but the sound caught in my throat. One of the children stepped forward, a boy in 19th century clothes. His mouth was a vertical slit, stitched crudely with thread. That he reached out, not to me, but to Claire, and placed a hand over her heart. She screamed, not with her mouth. Her scream came from the walls, a vibrating, full-bodied resonance that made my bones feel soft. Then she looked at me. Her voice, when it came, wasn't hers. "We bled at once," she said. It rang and took, until there was nothing left but sound. It needs names now. I stepped forward and placed the stuffed rabbit on the ground. "I'm not afraid of you," I said. The tower trembled. One by one. The children began to blink out, like someone cutting their strings. No noise, no drama, just gone. Claire remained. Then she smiled, a real, small smile, and for a second, her eyes became human again. "I think. I'm sorry," she whispered. Then the room exploded in red light. The bell rang, not with sound, but with weight, a crushing pressure that flattened the air and drove me to my knees. It rang red, just like the drawings, just like the message in the bathroom. Red when full. The light poured through the seams in the tower, down the staircase, across the bricks like blood, out into the sky. I covered my ears. I screamed. I thought I was dying, and then it stopped. When I woke up, I was outside. It was dawn. Birds chirping, cold stone beneath my back. The tower stood behind me, intact, but something was wrong. I went to my office. My computer, my files, everything was still there, except for one thing. Claire. Her name was gone from my class roster. My emails, her transcript, even the missing person report I filed, vanished. I asked other students. They said they didn't know who I was talking about. Even Keller didn't remember. It was as if Claire Maddox had never existed. But that's not the worst part. I received a package today. No return address. Inside was an envelope and a photo. A class photo, dated last week. My class, my students, 0.7 of them, and me. And between them, standing in that eighth place, was Claire, still smiling, still watching, her eyes black as coal.
Transcript ends 1:38 a.m. Evidence logged. 1 photo print. Date matches no official photo session. Subject in center does not match any enrolled student. Negative space around subject shows signs of digital or photographic warping. Professor Elias North remanded to psychiatric observation pending further investigation.
So what do you think? Was Claire ever real? Or was the bell tower always hungry for one more soul? Let me know in the comments. And if this horror story sent chills down your spine, tap the bell for more urban legends and true creepy confessions. I'll see you in the next story.